loudly spoken vociferously about the role India can play globally. Ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the highly charged and evolved dynamics in the Indian Ocean, the friend of Bharat, His Excellency, Mr. Mohamed Nasheed.
We must understand that India is our neighbor and it is there to stay. It is next door. We've had excellent relations for thousands of years, hundreds of years, and I'm sure it will continue.
Everyone must understand that we are an Indian Ocean country. India is just a few miles away from our northernmost island. We read the same books, we watch the same films, we eat the same food, we listen to the same music.
Look, Sri Lanka is in distress. Who has given anything? Only India. And India would be the only country who would step in and who would assist you in the first instance.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for His Excellency, Mr. Mohamed Nasheed. He will be in conversation with Republic Media Network's Executive Editor, News, Niranjan Narayan Swami.
Check. So, President Nasheed here, he's not just the former president of the Maldives. He's a friend of India. I don't know how many of you know about the story of Mohamed Nasheed and his relationship with India and New Delhi especially. He's also survived an assassination attempt because Maldives also has been battling with radicalism. He was targeted by his rivals. He was jailed, almost tortured when India had to intervene. The government had to intervene and ensure that he's freed. There was political intervention from India. He's popular in Maldives, but he's also controversial. Before we start the session, President Nasheed, I'll just ask a question to all our friends who are here. How many of you in the auditorium have been to Maldives in the past? If you can just raise your hands, please.
Far too few.
Far too few. Okay. Let me ask them another follow-up question. How many of you will go back to the Maldives after the recent controversy? And there's a reason why I asked that question, President Nasheed. So let me start with the headline today, and before we get to the tourism aspect of it. Maldives and China have now, come to a defense agreement. It's been signed. Maldives will now obtain non-lethal weapons and training from China, right? Why is Maldives falling for the China trap, President Nasheed? It didn't happen during your tenure. Why is it happening now?
Well, firstly, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back in Delhi, back in India. I've been away from India for far too long. It's been 6 months. This business of a former president is an awkward affair. You can't just go to places. You have to be invited to come. So thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, the editor-in-chief, and thank you to the whole team. I love it here. I've always said, I am a friend of India, and the vast majority of the people of the Maldives are friends of India. This is a very, very wrong perception that there is an anti-Indian sentiment in the Maldives. We do not have an anti-Indian sentiment in the Maldives. It's a small minority of people who, for their political benefit, have coined a phrase and have gone with this rhetoric. So, but before coming to your question, as you pointed out, I immensely admire your Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Modi, and the work that the Prime Minister is doing. It is not only lifting the people of India to prosperity, it is giving a source of strength and honor and proudness to all of us. We want to rise with India. We want to plug into your development. We want to have prosperity in our islands, in the neighbor, and whatever good happens here will overflow to our neighbors, to your neighbors. And therefore, it is very important for us that India keeps on rising. I have no doubt that this will ever stop. The coming decade would certainly be the decade for India. Now, coming to your question, why has the Maldives signed a defense agreement with China? To start with, I have my doubts if they have actually signed anything other than a supply contract. In 1988, there was an attempted coup in the Maldives. India instantly stepped in, aborted the coup, and brought back the government again. Every time when there's been a defense or a security issue in the Maldives, it's been India who has come to our assistance. The number of defense agreements and military exercises that we jointly have are far more than anyone else can ever have. So it's unfortunate that the Maldives has thought, or the president has thought, that he needs to buy tear gas and rubber bullets from China, and I am afraid that this will be again used against us. So this is not something that I would ever celebrate. I think stronger democracy, rule of law is how you govern, not through the barrel of the gun. So whatever equipment that we have bought is unnecessary, and I hope that they will remain unnecessary. And the institutional links between our two countries are far stronger than just one equipment contract.
President Nasheed, now Muizu, right? He's come to power with an anti-India sentiment. He came to power with the India Out campaign, right? But is that the Maldivian sentiment? Is that what the people of Maldives feel?
I do not believe that he has come to power because of an anti-India rhetoric. He came to power because my old party was weak. Our sitting president was weak. Our party was fractured. We couldn't unify the party. And we went into a presidential election thinking that they could win with one section of our party. So it was very unfortunate that this had happened. Anti-India sentiment is not a Maldives sentiment. I have to stress this again and again and again. We, as I keep saying, we read the same books, we watch the same films, we eat the same food, we have similar cultures, and we are very, very united. We are the same people. You cannot divorce us. You cannot marginalize us from India. And I never would believe that a sensible thinking Maldivian would ever believe that there can be any political gain by having an Indian sentiment. Most of our doctors are Indians. Most of our teachers are Indians. Most of our accountants are Indians. The middle establishment is very much assisted by India. So it is foolhardy for us to think, outrageous for anyone to think that an anti-India sentiment is a Maldives sentiment. I've come here at a very difficult time.
Yes.
And especially having to sit with journalists like, high-flying journalists like you.
So we're not high-flying, sir.
And trying to defend, trying to bat it out would be, I know, difficult. But I really do want to say that this is not a Maldives sentiment. We are your friends, and we will continue and remain as your friends.
Fantastic. So when for example, Muizu says there will be no Indian troops on Maldivian soil, he said that. He's given a deadline of May 15th, if I'm not wrong. He says, I think there are roughly about 89 Indian troops in Maldives as of today. And when he says on the 15th of May, there will be no Indian troops in military uniform or in civilian clothes. How long do you think it's going to last?
Well, we have 3 Indian helicopters and 1 Dornier flight.
Will he return those helicopters?
We have 3. We still have 3 Indian helicopters.
Yes.
And 1 Dornier flight. These were brought for medical evacuation. When our people get ill in our far-flung islands, these helicopters bring the patients to our hospitals. We have few developed hospitals. So these are in few islands. So to have medical emergency evacuation, India has helped us to bring these people to hospitals. And they have benefited our people immensely. They have alleviated a lot of pain. And I believe that they should continue and they will continue. Now, but President Moise kind of feels that there has to be another mechanism through which they would like to bring them. I personally don't believe that this should happen. He wants civilian Indian personnel to do the job. The whole idea, even from the very beginning, was that they would train our people to do the work, and they would remain until the training was done. And I think we should continue with that, and I believe that we will continue with that. I can't see this rapidly changing in the near future.
But you see the kind of statements that are coming out, President Nasheed. For example, there was a recent statement where he called India a bully. I mean, I can't imagine a Maldivian head of state call India a bully. Why would you do that? You've had our External Affairs Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar, who gave him a befitting reply. And he said, while responding to that statement, he said, a bully in the neighborhood wouldn't give you $4.5 billion in aid, right?
Well, I'll add to what Dr. Jaishankar said. When little Maldives asked India that they would want the troops gone, you know what India did? They agreed. There was no muscle twisting, muscle display. There was no arm twisting. They just wanted to have a conversation, find out how this can reasonably be done. That's not an action of a bully. An action of a bully would be to display your muscle. Of course, you do have far more stronger than anyone around in our region, or for that matter, the planet. That's not what India did. What India did was they respected a small island nation for whatever, right or wrong. They respected it, spoke to them, they are speaking to them, and they are finding ways of how to hand over. And I believe these are actions of a responsible superpower. These are not actions of a bully. Money is just one thing, but how you act, how you behave, how you treat your small neighbor, that is where a definition of bullying would come. And you would never see that. If you go back to the 70s and 60s and the United States and their neighbors and what was happening there, you would see the difference. Here is a responsible superpower rising, and I like it. I want to see India rise, and I strongly believe that our safety and our security is linked. Yes, the $4.5 billion, the COVID vaccine, the 1988 coup, when we had water shortage, India also came with water. So there's numerous incidents when India has always come and helped us out, and I don't think these are actions of a bully. That's very wrong to say it. Yeah. No one should say it, and I will condemn this all the time.
And when you speak of bullies, how would you describe China? Would you call China a bully, or would you call China or refer to China as a honey trap? I'll tell you why. Because see what's happened to Sri Lanka, and you have friends in Sri Lanka. See what has happened to Nepal, what they're trying to do in Bangladesh, for example, and in Bhutan, right? Now, all of them are wary of China today. Why is Maldives suddenly taken this still?
You know, throughout the region, we swing from one side to another after every election. This is a habit. But we must try and see that we have stable foreign policy, where we have more center and not keep on swinging from one side to the other. But this is happening. It's part and parcel of multi-party democracy. If I say it's white, my opposition would instantly come out and say it's black. So there is that element to it as well. But China has spent given a lot of aid, loans, not aid, loans, to our countries to build a lot of infrastructure. Now, I do not think that we should measure development with concrete. The more concrete, the more steel you have, the more glass you have, that doesn't necessarily mean you're developing more. They intentionally raise the price of the projects so that the business plan fails. When the business plan fails, you can't pay back your loan. So when you can't pay back the loan, then they ask for equity. And with equity, we lose more sovereignty. So I think this whole idea that development depends on huge amounts of infrastructure is very wrong. Development is what happens to you. It's your own prosperity and it's your own happiness. So I think when countries want to counter the Road and Belt Initiative, it's not another Road and Belt Initiative. It must be focused on small projects that have big impact on households, on people. And I think a lot of the Indian projects in the Maldives are driven in this way. I've had many conversations with your officials, and they do agree that this is the best way to go about assisting a neighboring country. And I believe that, we are very heavily indebted. All of our countries are very, very heavily indebted. And this year, more than I am told, that more up to 25 to 30 countries would go into default. Poor countries, developing countries, have to pay over $500 billion in interest alone to all these loans. We don't have that money because none of these projects were actually financially viable. So it is going to be a difficult year. There will be more defaults and there will be more chaos all around us. So it's going to be sad, and I think we should be very, very mindful about where the money is coming from, how the money is spent, what are the terms of these investments. And I am very glad that, Indian investments go through a tendering process.
Yes.
And we know what is coming to our country. It's not just some vanity project for a minister. It's done through enough assessments, and it's going through a process. And the rates are very, very low. So these are development loans. And the price is the best price. So I think there is a marked difference between what we get from India and what we get from China. I would go for Indian assistance any day.
Great. Well said. I mean, once Maldives default, I think the tide will change. And the tide will change. And we also know it's a fight for the Indian Ocean. Of course, India has a stake in the Indian Ocean, right? China has an interest in the Indian Ocean. Now, I wanted to ask you, because I was speaking to you just before this, and you mentioned that the current president of Maldives is running out of support. Is that true? Is he isolated? Is there a chance that the government could fall in the Maldives?
Well, he won the elections, as I said, A, because our party got fractured and the president was very weak. B, because the former president, President Yamin, and the breakaway from the MDP also supported him. But now all of these people have left him. His own party is fractured, where President Yamin has distanced himself from the new president, and no one is around him. So he is looking very, very isolated. We have parliamentary elections coming, and I think these elections would show how the political landscape would look like. And I am hopeful, and I am very confident that we will be able to bring sanity to the Maldives. Sensible people will do sensible things, and we can't go along this trajectory and this pathway. It will change. Yep. Now, about the Indian Ocean.
Yes.
The Maldives occupies the navigable parts of the Indian Ocean. We are a very big country. We are a big ocean state. We stretch 1,000 kilometers from north to south. Most of the trade routes and supply lines converge into our space and our country. So there is always people who want to dominate the Maldives. And we should always be mindful about that. And because of this, safety and security of the Indian Ocean is so important for all of us. India is very relevant for us. And we must have good relations with India. I believe these are the sensible paths that we should take, and I think it will continue.
You know, we have a very, our Prime Minister here is very popular, you know. He likes to dive, he likes to snorkel. And why was there such a meltdown in Maldives when our Prime Minister went to Lakshadweep? Why did your politicians lose it? At least a set of them. Right? They lost it on social media. They put out posts, bordering on hate, right? Why did they go into a meltdown?
Well, small minds do wrong things. Developing tourism in Lakshadweep would be for the benefit of the Maldives. It's complementary. It's never competitive. When Sri Lanka grows, when Sri Lankan tourism prospers, it's always a benefit to the Maldives. Someone who is going to Lakshadweep is more likely to come to the Maldives as well, because you've been there and there is another destination right next door. So very often people take these multiple destination tours. So I think it was wrong even economically. We've understood this about Maldives tourism industry and how it helps when Sri Lankan arrivals increase, Maldives arrivals will increase. So I think tourism development in Lakshadweep would benefit us all. There is nothing wrong with having tourism in the Lakshadweep, and it would be beautiful. I am sure it can be done. And I believe a lot of our own entrepreneurs, because they have a very good experience on developing resorts, they probably have better experience in this region in developing resorts, and they would jump to the occasion. Yes. They already have resorts in Seychelles, they already have resorts in Zanzibar, so I am sure our entrepreneurs would jump to the occasion. And they do want this. They've been wanting tourism development in Minico Islands as well. So I think, to start with, this was wrongly thinking, and it was small minds talking about silly things. And I'm glad that these low-level government officials have now been removed. And these are activists who suddenly was brought into government, and then they just kind of ran on the wrong side. Sad, and I am sorry.
Yeah.
I am extremely sorry that they have done this.
Now that's it's graceful of you. But is it true that tourism industry has actually taken a hit because of the boycott by Indians?
Well, yes, a lot of Indian tourists have stopped coming to the Maldives, and even if the aggregate number remains, we must understand that resorts specialize in destinations. There'll be resorts who specialize in Indian tourists. And for them, it would be a very, very big hit. So the boycott campaign here has hurt us. And again, I've come here to tell you, please come to the Maldives. And you must win our hearts and our minds. They are with you. To hit us back is, I am sure that's not the view of the Honorable Prime Minister. I know the Honorable Prime Minister very well. I'll tell you, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but Laila, my wife, when she asked the Prime Minister not to come to the Maldives while I was in prison, the Prime Minister not only not came to the Maldives, but got me out as well. So I can go on saying so many instances, and our relationship with the Honorable Prime Minister is very rich, very friendly, and I am sure it will continue.
Yeah, finally, I had a classmate. I had a few classmates when I studied in Bangalore, a city in Karnataka. And, they're back in the Maldives, and some of them are in the the tourism business. And they tell me it started with India out, but the mood now is Muizu out. Is that true? Is that going to happen?
Well, you see, when you go against entrepreneurship, when you actually hurt your own people, it will be difficult to win their hearts. It will be difficult to get their support. So I think the President, Dr. Moise, would realize what has happened, and he will have to change course, redirect himself, and see that we remain strongly together. This is not the path that we should take.
All right, he's traveled all the way from Ghana in Africa to be with us at the Republic Summit this year, and he's going back to Ghana after this, so big round of applause for President Nasheed.
There's one more little thing, yeah. Right? Going to the topic, what should India do in the coming decade? India, I believe, will save the planet. I am very sorry, this hasn't come up here. We have to decarbonize. We have to find a low-carbon development strategy that would give us the same economic outcomes, but without damaging the planet. The biofuels that your energy minister was talking about, I was very excited about it. The renewables that you are bringing, your net zero targets. So India will be the leader in saving the planet. That is bigger than anything else. So I believe what India would do in the next 10 years, decade, would be actually find a pathway to save the planet. And I thank you for that.
President Nasheed, thank you for joining us here at the Republic Summit. It was a pleasure to host you. Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for President Nasheed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for being so candid and insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, the former President of the Maldives, Mohamed Nasheed. It's time now for a virtual interaction with an individual who has dared to scale. His style of entrepreneurship has been a source of inspiration to many. He has successfully powered his vision to scale with the restless passion to adapt to evolving trends. He's been a big believer in green and clean energy in industry, championing sustainability and environmental responsibility every step of the way. Through his visionary leadership, he has spearheaded initiatives to reduce carbon footprints, promote renewable energy sources, and drive towards a greener future for our planet. He has delivered on aggressive acquisitions, strategically expanding reach and influence in key markets while maintaining a steadfast commitment to working on the larger goal of building a robust Bharat. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the founder and chairperson of the RPSG Group, Mr. Sanjiv Goenka, the man of ideas who is scaling up with solidity and purpose, steering us towards growth and prosperity with unwavering determination and vision.
India and Indians is unparalleled. It's not only given the world a new confidence in India, a new respect for India, a new respect for Indians, but it's given all of us within India, every Indian, the confidence and belief that we can perform, we can deliver, we can compete.
The BJP government has changed the way one operated in India. And it's become so much easier to think global, genuinely think global scales, to manufacture in India, to operate in India, and to grow from India. I must say that we've recently, over the last few years, invested a lot in Uttar Pradesh, and I've been blown away by what I see of what's happening in Uttar Pradesh and the leadership provided by Yogi ji. It's absolutely fantastic.
Prime Minister Modi is the boss.
the man of ideas, Mr. Sanjiv Goenka. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to now invite Public Media Network's Editor-in-Chief and Chairman, Arnab Goswami, and the Deputy News Editor and Anchor, Suesha Sawant, to please come up on stage to have an interaction with Mr. Sanjiv Goenka, who joins us virtually.
Sanjiv, it's good to see you remotely, though. It would have been even better if you were with us in person. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you, Arnab. It's always a pleasure to be with you and at the Republic Summit.
Thank you, Sanjiv. Sanjiv, we've been talking to people and stakeholders in business, government, politics, governance, chief ministers. We hope to have the Prime Minister this evening. How have things changed for you? I mean, you're one of the biggest business houses, most diversified, probably one of the largest from the eastern part of the country, and spread out in India and globally now. You're also doing a lot of work globally. You have global aspirations as well. So can you just look at your story and how have government policies impacted you, if at all, in the last, say, 10 years? And how do you look to the next 10?
Arnab, quite honestly, India under Modi is a different India. It's a confident India. It's an aspirational India. And it's an India that wants to not only conquer the world, but rule the world. I think it's thanks to the Prime Minister and the policies of this government that every one of us in business has started thinking global, has started thinking scale, has started thinking of while you locate manufacturing in India, you manufacture for the world. The approach has changed. The scales have changed. The aspirations have changed. And of course, the policies have changed. It has become easy to do business in India. And very importantly, India is viewed with a huge degree of respect across the world, as indeed are Indians. And that is thanks to Modi. I am a firm believer in Modi hai to mumkin hai.
Sanjiv, tell me, we've spoken about this and you're very keen to explore things globally. When we say we travel abroad now, we see a different level of respect. The relationships are different at a personal, professional, and business level. Indian companies are thinking of going abroad. As one of the biggest business houses in the country, as one of the biggest business personalities of the country, Sanjiv, our theme is Dare to Scale. Are you looking at going global, and how do global players relate to you now? When you talk to your global partners and global investors and other stakeholders, how do they relate to you now? Can you give us anything anecdotal about this?
You know, in the past, when you introduce yourself as an Indian company, if you were a Ratan Tata or a Mukesh Ambani or a Gautam Adani, it was different. But for most other companies originating out of India, you didn't even get an audience at the senior most level. Some middle level guy would see you. Today you get an audience at the senior most level. And that is the difference that Modi and his government has brought to the perception of India.
Oh, that's huge. Now, you're taking risks. I'll take one more question and hand it over to you, Suesha. But I'm very keen to know, you see, people say, are people investing in India? Are Indian houses investing abroad? Are they parking their capital abroad? But you have done the opposite. You are going to acquire Aquafarm Chemicals company for 3,800 crores. And congratulations, last month you acquired a 4,000 crore company in the chemicals business. So, you know, you're always making about 10,000 crores of investment between these two decisions. And obviously, when a businessman invests 10,000 crore rupees, he wants a return. And there is a mammoth amount of risk that is involved. Is this investment possible without a solid foundation, without what you would call a good climate? Can you talk about the climate in which things are happening which allow you to take these fearless decisions?
You know, any of these decisions happen on the basis of policies, on the basis of the environment, on the basis of the confidence you have on the administration. And I think that confidence is so huge that people are actually becoming not only ambitious, but as you said, fearless in taking investment decisions.
You're talking cautiously still, Sanjiv, but I just wanted you to make this point because, and I'll say this to the audience, you wouldn't be hearing this, that, you know, Sanjiv, if I can just take a detour and give my own. Sometimes we hear that, you know, things are difficult, the government wants a lot of compliance, taxes are being followed, businessmen are feeling insecure, Indian businesses are leaving India, people are leaving their Indian citizenship, more Indians want to stay in Dubai than in India, but Sanjiv Goenka still continues to do almost all his business in India. And if he's going abroad, it is for business reasons, for investment. So he's a classic example of a person. So don't believe the story if somebody tells you that businessmen don't want to be compliant. I think that's a living example of that story. Congratulations to you, Sanjiv, for that. That's a really good thing that you're doing. Suesha takes the next question. Suesha.
In fact, Mr. Goenka, I want to make a point further to what Arnab just said about the acquisition of the 4,000 crore company in the chemicals business. You just spoke about favorable government policies. How do you manage to converge that with an astute group strategy? And how does this diversification complement the group's mission towards sustainability? What are your long-term plans on that?
This company is actually producing something called green chelates in addition to phosphonates. Green chelates is the most green version of detergents that you can get. And Aquafarm is one of the 2 companies in the world which has this technology. It's very easy to scale up from here, and this is as green gets. I mean, we have the world majors who are our consumers and potential clients who are waiting to get this product.
Right, and you know, you take a lot of pride in Indian roots. You're also very high on Ayurveda and the ancient legacy of it. What are the company's plans to take Ayurveda to the international realm now?
So we are going to launch Indian Ayurveda in a modified, easy to consume form towards the end of this calendar year in the US. So for example, a traditional kadha as we know it will not be sold as a kadha but will be sold as an infusion. The normal chavanprash, the normal shitopaladi will be sold in gummy form. So it's all easy to consume. It's the same formulation, but just made easy to consume.
Can I take the next? Yes, Sanjiv, you are a 200-year-old group if you look at your whole history. And you have a big asset base. You have a $7 billion asset base. You have solid revenue flow. You have, I think, of over $4 billion annually revenue flow, 4.3 billion, I'm told. So you should be in a good position to be looking at areas where the growth will be. I'm sure you don't believe in sitting on capital. I'm sure you believe in investing, and you're investing, you're going into different areas. So I'm very curious to know, and many businessmen, entrepreneurs will be keen to know what are those areas which someone as savvy as Sanjiv Goenka will invest in. You're going into some areas, some element of FMCG, you've gone into a bit of media, and you've acquired an IPL team, which I don't think was a business decision, it was more an emotional decision. But having said that, what are the areas in which Bharat over the next decade will see exponential growth?
You know, green energy is one business where you will see huge growth. So we are investing in solar generation, in wind generation. In fact, we have said that about 60 to 70% of the power that we distribute in the 6 cities that we have the license to operate will be green. We are going to get into hydrogen electrolyzers. We are exploring this area in a very strong way. That's one. Green chelates is another form of completely green product. Ayurveda is, again, as green as it gets. So we are looking at green as the path forward. We do believe that is the way to go. I'd just like to mention your comment on the IPL team.
Yes, meant to provoke
I've
you.
heard this before, that it was not a business decision.
Yes.
But let me just say that I paid 7,000 crores for the license. 2 years later, I sit on more than one offer at a value of 14,000 plus.
So you're saying that investing 7,000 crores in Lucknow Super Giants is a business decision?
Well, out of the 7,000, I've said this before and I'll say this again, 6,100 was something that came out of a calculation done by our advisors and financial consultants. And 100 crores per year was the passion element.
Don't worry, I'm just provoking you. I'm just pulling your legs, Sanjiv. Don't take me seriously on this one. Let me have some fun. It's been a day of serious conversations, and I think I have the ability to pull your leg once in a while. We go back a long enough way to do that. But what are you doing?
For
I mean,
sure.
are people like
sure.
you and Gautam Adani, Mukesh Ambani, I'm sure, and other major, the Birlas, are you doing enough to generate entrepreneurship? That's my first question. And my second question is, how do you view people who are running behind valuation? You see, Sanjiv, you're a 200-year-old company. Today, everybody wants to be a billionaire within 6 months. Everybody is after this valuation game. And running behind the valuation game, you've seen what happened to certain companies in recent days, like Byju's and others, you know. So, please answer both these questions. It's important that we must have the right ethics when we are running a business. So, 2 questions. Are you really doing enough to grow entrepreneurs from your side, as a company, as an individual? And C, what do you make of this running behind billions instead of building sustainable businesses?
Arnab, if you build sustainable businesses which are profitable and growth-oriented, you will make billions. A concept can give you a head start. But if it is not sustainable, if it is not cash accretive, if it is not stakeholder remunerative,
True.
you're not going to get valuations which are sustainable. So I, for one, am not a great believer in these very fancy kind of media hype that gets created over certain companies. But having said that, look at the number of companies which have started from scratch and have done so admirably. There's so much to be learned from that zeal, from that spirit, from that never say die attitude. You talked about Mukesh and Gautam Bhai and Kumar. They're in a scale way above mine. Mukesh is somebody I've unabashedly said is like my guru. He's somebody I look up to. He's somebody I try to follow. But they are there, I'm here. So, as far as I'm concerned, as far as we are concerned, we've started a small venture capital fund for FMCG, where we are not investing in startups, but second stage startups. And we are not only putting capital, but we are giving management expertise, and we are helping these companies scale up. So it's a small thing, it's not enough, but it's a beginning.
That's really good. And I think that's excellent. And I think it's good that you're also investing in the media, because that's where commitment and impact investing is happening. So I think it's all good. You know, we look up to you. I think you're a very grounded person. And I think, you know, you represent traditional values. I think your next generation is going to take it to the next level. And we're always proud to be associated with you and to speak to you. So, Suesha, may you close,
Absolutely.
please.
And in fact, furthering this point, you know, there are also businesses that are struggling to stay relevant. You have a 200-year-old legacy group. You've seen governments change one generation after the other. How do you manage to evolve, innovate at every step? We are talking about Bharat, the next decade. What is the game plan for RPSG in the decade to come?
You know, frankly, I'm not thinking of a decade. It's the whole planning horizon has narrowed down. So over the next 3 years, we are investing about 55,000 crores, mostly towards green projects. That's committed, and that's at various stages of takeoff. And we'll take the next step. We'll start planning on that 12 months from now.
So 3 takeaways from this conversation, Suesha, that I carry. 1, invest in India. Big Indian businesses are investing in India. This theory that big Indian businesses and successful businesses want to leave India because of compliance issues is completely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Second big takeaway is invest in value creation, not valuation. And I think that's very important. And third is, from talking to him, remain grounded. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and look forward to seeing you soon, Sanjiv.
Thank you,
Sanjiv. Lots of love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arnab and Suesha. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to move on to our next session. And we are delighted and honored to have with us Mr. Amitabh Kant, who presents his vision statement on New Bharat's global power play for the next decade. He'll join us any moment now inside the hall. As the G20 Sherpa, Mr. Kant has ensured Bharat redefined its place on the global stage